Welcome back to the College Football Pick'em Pod, hosted by Canes Insight, your stop for everything Miami. Before we get into all the action, we had an okay week last week, but let's thank one of our sponsors. You knew them well. Brett, everyone over at Caneswear. They've got the best selection of Miami Hurricanes gear by far. We're talking hats, jerseys, shirts you can't find anywhere else. Got brand new Adidas apparel, plus their own custom clothing. Football, baseball, basketball, and much more. You name it, they got it. Head over to caneswear.com or visit the storefront in Davie. N'Kosi Perry jersey. Is it time?
Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, I think he came in and he killed. And I know I defended Malik Rozier, on here last week. Rozier. I defended him last week and said, he played really well. But when Perry came in, that was wild. He looked really, really good. The defense looked incredible against FIU. Like that was really crazy. So I think that maybe it is Perry's team. Maybe. I don't know. We're gonna see Thursday.
So
Mark Richt won't say.
Listening to Phil, and Phil was defending Malik Rozier, and you got yourself a jersey. Now you're kind of screwed. So you got to go over to Caneswear and grab N'Kosi Perry jersey.
Then you can have both jerseys so that if both end up playing, in case it turns into a Trevor Lawrence, Kelly Bryant thing.
Well, I think that situation's handled. I think Trevor Lawrence is the guy now.
Lawrence is the king.
And I think Ian Book over at Notre Dame has taken over that job from Wimbush. We had a lot of these 2 QB systems. Miami's hopping on board. But you're right. It wouldn't surprise me if we do see Malik Rozier. I mean, Rozier did get a lot done for this team. But yeah, man, Perry looked good. So
it's funny. It's funny how quickly everybody forgets. I mean, Miami was in a dumpster fire a couple years ago, and then we start working our way back. And Rozier gets us to 9-0 last year, and it's just like forget him. We want 10-0. We just want a championship. We want championships, nothing else. Give us. And I don't blame Miami fans. I mean, hey, I get it. You have banners that say national champions. You want more. And Perry looks like he could be the guy. Perry looks like he's going to be a stud, but it's just funny how it's like, bye Malik. You brought us back from the Al Golden era, and goodbye. We don't need you anymore. Where's Perry? Get that man out of here. But hey, I see it. I saw Perry play in that game. His passes are a lot crisper than Rozier's. That's for sure. But
yeah, we'll get into the Miami line this week against UNC. We can get more into Perry. Let's recap last week. You went 9-7. I went 9-7. So +2 each overall. I'm up to $272 on the season. We each started with 200. And Phil, you're up to what now?
365.
365. So you keep going up. Again, we've had winning weeks, I think, every week except my week 1. So
yeah, that was the only week that was poor.
Yeah, still doing well. I mean, a couple here again. We were totally off. We were totally wrong. I mean, that TCU Texas game was baffling. That was one of my favorite lines last week. And then, I was on Georgia -14.5. They win by 14. They were in control of that game the whole time. That one was a bit of a bummer. Miami's, I thought, I had Miami on over 60. That didn't hit. Didn't really even come that close. I mean, towards the end, that fourth quarter. But it was an okay week. Tulane for me dropped the ball too. I mean, Ohio State scores a touchdown with like a minute left when they were up, they were up like 35.
35. Yeah, it was close.
So that was a tough one.
Yeah, and for me, it was that BC game. BC looked horrible against Purdue. They looked absolutely terrible, and I mean, I could see them losing to Purdue, but to lose by 17 and they got a touchdown late, they were losing by 23 for most of that game. I mean, that was a pathetic performance by BC.
Hey, who called that? Couldn't see that one coming, could you?
Yeah, you did call it, but you didn't pick Purdue to win by 17. And then Wake, I mean, they really had nothing against Book. I mean, Book came in and Book was clearly the better
playing. Yeah, I mean, if Wake was playing, I think Wake has a way, way better chance at covering that, and I think that's what we both expected heading into that game. I didn't think Book was going to be the QB. Let's see.
But my two biggest locks last week were UCF and North Texas, and they both hit. So at least that was going for me.
Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah. I mean, I know we both really like the Texas TCU game. We'll talk about both those teams. UCF, yeah, that was one of my favorite ones. And then the Buffalo -6 again, Rutgers. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that. I mean, betting against Rutgers is the most fun thing to do because it's over within like the first quarter. So you'll see what we have coming up this week. All right. Any other things from last week you want to touch on? I mean, that Stanford Oregon game was crazy. We both got the Stanford cover. Stanford had it the whole time. Yeah. It's never in question. But yeah, Stanford just didn't play defense in the first half, and we lost that under pretty quickly. Stanford unders have been kind of the play. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm going to hop on that under this week against Notre Dame because I think it's set pretty low. But should we get into it?
I just wanted to say with that Stanford Oregon game, Will and I were watching it together at a bar, and then Will had to go get dinner with his sister. So we're leaving, and it was right after Oregon scored the touchdown to go up 31-7, 31-7, and so we left. And I'm driving home, and I look down at my phone, and it says 24-21, and I was like, wait a second. How is it 24-21? It was 31-7. So I called up my friend and I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, they didn't call it a touchdown. 2 plays later, 96-yard scoop and score. I was like, what is going on? And that just changed all momentum. I did get home in time to watch the almost the entire fourth quarter. I mean, that just changed everything about that game. And Oregon just didn't have a shot after that. I mean, Stanford just took control.
Yeah, I was at dinner. I had to do one of those things where you're on your phone looking at the game cast and just been like, how is this happening? And then, Oregon fumbles it when they're just trying to run out the clock. I mean, it took a lot for Stanford to even have a chance to win that game. They didn't look good, obviously, but you kind of got to say, wow, if they're capable of coming back like that, then
against one of the best offenses in the country.
Oregon looked really good. I think that's the biggest takeaway was, yeah, they completely blew it. They choked, but man, Justin Herbert, that's his name, right? I mean, he was dicing Stanford up, and we were watching it, and he made it look easy. And I mean, Stanford made some adjustments and kind of locked down towards the end of that game, but that kid can play for sure. I think that's it. I guess that one thing in that game, the rule where everyone was kind of confused because like his foot hit the pylon, but like when the ball hits the pylon, it's a touchdown. So people were confused. It's pretty straightforward. Like the ball hitting the pylon means it crosses the plane and it's a touchdown. But it's also out of bounds. So it's the same thing where like if your foot hits the sideline and the ball if you're holding out the ball over here and your toe hits the white chalk on the sideline, you're still out of bounds. So out of bounds is where your feet are, and the touchdown is where the ball is. So I heard a lot of people really upset with that call, but you saw the ball was behind the goal line when his foot touched the pylon. So I think that was a pretty straightforward call. I don't know why people are all up in arms about that, but hey, I'm a Stanford fan, just trying to explain it as I see it. So,
well, maybe we can do an entire podcast one day on explaining that rule and then explaining the NFL roughing the passer. If you want to do that, you and me. These roughing the passer calls are crazy, but I think, man, it's good for college football, right?
I mean, it's going to get to a point where like you're not going to want to watch the NFL. I mean, straight up sacks where if the quarterback doesn't throw the ball, that flag, it should not be allowed to be thrown. It's just insane because he's not a passer. If the ball isn't thrown, what are you passing?
Yeah, you
passing
can't
gas while you're getting tackled. I mean, you're not a passer if you're not throwing a ball. So these calls where they're just sacks, and I get what they're trying to do, but I hope maybe people will then come over to college football, see all these targeting calls, and then go outside and not stay inside all day on the weekend.
Go make lemonade stands, right? So anyway, now let's get into the games for this week. But before we get into the Miami one, we got to tell you about our friends at Sala, Astorita & Cox, LLC, a boutique law firm focusing on white-collar criminal defense and security matters. They've been featured and recognized in Florida Super Lawyers as well as Florida Legal Elite, and the partners formerly worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the SEC. Sala, Astorita & Cox, attorneys at law. You can visit their website at salalaw.com or call their toll-free number, 1-888-SEC-ATTY. So, first game of the weekend, Miami hosting UNC. UNC had a week off, and then they go out and they beat Pitt 38-35 for their first win of the season. I've been hard on UNC all year. We got an 18-point spread with Miami coming in, or with UNC coming in. What do you think about this on the short week here?
I mean, we've been mean to UNC sometimes when we talk about them. You know, like they're one of these teams that is bad. Yeah, they beat Pitt. Do you think they're the worst team in the ACC?
No, Louisville's the worst team in the ACC. Louisville's horrible.
Okay. Louisville was horrible. That's right. I don't know. It is scary that Miami gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was 31-0, and you don't want to see something like this happen again. I mean, FIU, like, that's a 14-point game right there. And of course, it never appeared that way. But that's definitely worrisome with this 18.5-point spread. But I'm going to go with the Canes just because I don't trust UNC at all. I think Miami's defense is that good where they might hold UNC to like 6 points or maybe 13 points at the most. I don't see this UNC team scoring all that much. And my hope is that Miami's defense is just all they're hearing in this short week is going to be 17 points in the fourth against FIU, 17 points in the fourth against FIU. It
was the last 7 minutes.
Last 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, they just so that's the freshest football that should be top of mind for these coaches and these players, and the defense should buckle down not only through the first 3 quarters, but when the fourth quarter does roll around, we don't see something like this happen where they just kind of let their guard down and then they're not able to cover. We were on FIU to cover, what was it, 21 points last week?
No, it was 20. Was it 21? I thought it was 17 and a half.
I don't know. I think it was in the 20s. Let me see. I just
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. It was 27. What am I talking about? 17.
Oh, 27. We were both wrong. So that was an easy cover at 27. I just hope that, they're not going to give up 17 points unanswered with 7 minutes to go in the game and then lose the cover. Because that's what exactly happened. If you had Miami, you had the plus 27 covered, and then just like that, it's gone. They only hit 31 points. You couldn't have given up a touchdown at 31 points. But UNC, I hope, is this bad. I know they've had a lot of time to prepare, but I'm going to take the Canes here. UNC just is a bad football team. And that's my bets that I've felt good about and consistently win are when I just bet against bad football teams, like with Northwestern, with Rutgers. So I'm going to take that side of things. If you're taking the other side, I completely understand. This is a tough line. Yeah, I figured you would.
Yeah, I am. Are you doing just 10 on this? It's minus 18.
It's just 10.
Just 10. So I only have 10 on UNC plus 18. And I know we want to at least put something on the Miami game. This is one of those games that I'm not going to end up. I don't know, man. This is a tough one where I would maybe do this UNC. If this got down to plus 17, I'd be so much more comfortable. The 18 always sucks. But the thing with UNC is UNC, their offense has started to come around a little bit. Nathan Elliott didn't throw an interception last week, which is incredible. And so I think that their offense is starting to get into a little bit of rhythm. Granted, it was against Pittsburgh. Who cares? They had the week off after getting blown out by East Carolina. But I think that they come into Miami. It's a short week, not as much time to prep. UNC is better than FIU. And I think that Miami, their defense in that first half.
Are they, though?
Yeah, they are.
Is UNC that much better than FIU?
Well, here's the way I look at it. They lost by 7 to Cal, and yeah, that game was hideous, but it was still only 7 at the end of the day. They got killed by ECU, and then they beat
killed by Cal.
Yeah, they were getting killed
like Miami let up.
I know. Well, you know what though? I'm thinking that UNC is better than FIU. I mean, FIU had 1 yard of offense going into halfway through the second quarter. That's crazy. That's terrible. So I think that yeah, absolutely.
And Miami or UNC is going to be facing that same defense though.
I think UNC can put up 14 points in this game, but I think Miami probably ends up winning it around 31-14, something like that. And I don't know if Perry is going to get all of it.
Didn't they give up over 30 points to Pitt, though? I think Miami will be able to score. Yeah, they give up 5 touchdowns to Pitt. I think Miami's able to score here, and Miami's defense looks so good for the majority of that game. This thing could get out of hand. Like, I think it could be one of those games where it gets out of hand. And even if UNC, scores a couple late, I just think Miami is that much better of a team, and I hope they are.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first ACC game for Miami too, so you would hope they'd be a little bit fired up. That Coastal is wide open with Virginia Tech losing to ODU in the craziest upset of maybe our lives. So we just saw that happen. That Duke is without their starting quarterback, even though they still look really, really good. So Miami knows that they win this game. You've eliminated UNC from contention, and now you can just work your way, every game one at a time. So I think they jump out early here, but just from the last 2 weeks, what I've watched Miami do is give up points late. That's what they do. I mean, I know that in the first game it was Jaquan Johnson who got hurt, but they give up points. That's what they do at the end of these games when they have a comfortable lead, and I could see it happening here again. Maybe UNC gets a garbage time touchdown, 3 minutes left to cover the 18.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we have seen it happen. Again, my hope here is that they want to focus on that. They don't want to just let these teams score, and that perhaps Miami's so far ahead that these 1 or 2 even late touchdowns won't even matter. So I see where you're going, but yeah.
And you have nothing on the over under, right? Because I'm not touching it.
No. It's especially with the UNC. Again, I'm not taking over unders when I'm only relying on one team. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking overs, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. So who do you have? What's your next game that you have here?
Let's go back. Let's go to Memphis at Tulane.
Okay.
This is a Friday night game. And, I mean, Tulane got absolutely stomped by Ohio State. It was embarrassing. 49-6. It was bad. They couldn't cover the 35.5, and I had that. It was frustrating. But I don't think, this line here is at 2 touchdowns. It's Memphis is favored by 14 points. I just think that's a lot. I know Memphis has looked okay at times, but, I mean, they lost to Navy, and then their wins are Southern Alabama, Georgia State, and Mercer. It's just what has Memphis accomplished? And we saw Tulane hang in there with a Wake Forest team. So I just think, Memphis is the better team, but 14 seems high. And this is one of those Friday games where I'm just going to want to watch college football and I want to have some action. So give me $10 on Tulane to cover those 2 touchdowns.
All right. Yeah, I don't have anything on any of these Friday night games. The 2 games, it's Tulane, Memphis, and it's UCLA, Colorado. I don't like either of them. Memphis, I got burned by betting against them the first time with Georgia State. I bet the under, and Memphis just kept scoring. So I think Memphis can definitely score against this Tulane team. Like you said, though, who has Memphis played? Tulane lost to Ohio State, UAB, and Wake. They beat Nicholls State. I mean, UAB, I don't know too much about.
Hey, Nicholls State beat Kansas, man.
That's true. So, hey, there you go. And you know what? I could definitely see Tulane covering this. They're at home. This is definitely something they could do.
The bounce back game.
Yeah, I just don't like it enough to be like, I'm not going to sit here and ride the green wave. So I'm gonna look over, UCLA, Colorado, maybe Colorado by 10. They are at home, but it's not something I'm comfortable enough with.
Yeah, man, I wanted to take this one too. I really wanted to put something on this game, but man, UCLA is 0-3, Colorado's 3-0, and it's, Colorado's at home. I can just see UCLA sneaky pulling one off, or at least covering 10 points. That would be my lean at least. But then you kind of realize, okay, UCLA is garbage. Mm-hmm. Colorado's pretty solid squad. So yeah, my lean would be maybe grab UCLA. But it's just UCLA is going to win one of these games. They have a good coach. They've had a lot of time to prepare for this game, but so has Colorado. They both had the week off last week. So I'm not touching it. And the over-under is at 60.5, which I'm not going to touch either.
Yeah, because UCLA hasn't proven they can score. Yeah, so I'm ignoring both Friday games. I learned my lesson from that 1 week. I'm not going to do it here. Last week I loved UCF against FAU, which they covered that easily. So The next game I got is the rematch from last year. Clemson's only loss in the regular season. Syracuse traveling to Clemson. Syracuse looking a lot better than last year. They're 4-0 right now. They look legit. I mean, they look really, really tough. Clemson's been, beating teams. They beat Georgia Tech last week by 28. They had the scare against A&M, but that was a scare towards the very end. So I actually have both the over. I have 15 on the over. Right now it's set at 66. I think that both of these offenses are way better than both of these defenses. And I know since week 1 in the third quarter, when Syracuse gave up, I think, 28 points to Western Michigan, their defense has really cracked down. They only gave up 7 to Florida State. They've really started to look better. I think, who did they play last week? They gave up like 13 points last week total, I believe. So
it's UConn. They covered like 28 points against UConn or something. It was high. I mean, that spread was high, and they did manage to cover it, I believe.
Yeah. And I don't think Clemson's defense is as good as they've been in the past. They gave 21 points to Georgia Tech. I know that they were up 49-7, but then, Georgia Tech got 2 late touchdowns. But I think that this is a game, obviously, Clemson's had it circled for a long time. Clemson's been looking forward to this one. But I think that this is a game that's played in the 30s. I think that Clemson could win this one 42-21. Somewhere in there, which would put it at 63, which might be the under. But I also think that Syracuse puts up some points in this game. I think Syracuse can put up to 28. I think Clemson could go into the 50s because I do think that Syracuse's defense, while it's cracked down, also hasn't played an offense like Clemson's. It looks like Trevor Lawrence has really come into his own. So I'm going to put 15 on over 66. And I also got 10 on Q's plus 23.5. Plus 23.5 is a lot.
Holy shit, it went up. I thought it would go the other way.
No. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, it started at 21, and I was like, oh, man, they could lose by 21, and I get the push. But 23.5, you're giving me 3 touchdowns. And then somehow there's a wacky missed extra point or something, and it ends up being 22. I still cover.
And a safety.
It could be a safety. Like, seriously, it could be any of those little wacky plays here or there. Somebody goes for 2 at a time and they don't need to, and then they end up losing by 22 or 23. I'm going to take Cuse here. I only have 10 on it, but I do think that Syracuse is a better team. Now, Clemson hasn't looked as dominant as they did last season, so maybe they want to come out in this game and really, put the hammer down, and they could do it, but if I'm betting this game, I'm going Syracuse plus 23.5. That's a lot of points for a team that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised this line headed in that direction. I thought the opposite would happen. Syracuse is 4-0. Everyone now is bringing up that Syracuse beat Clemson last year, and people might be like, oh, yeah, they beat Clemson last year, and they're 4-0 now. They should be – this just could be a good game, and they see that 22 points. Because I saw it at 22.5 and maybe take Q's. But, man, if the action's coming in on Clemson, I don't know. I had $15 on the 22.5, but I don't know if I like this game anymore if it's headed over 23. I do think that, Clemson with Trevor Lawrence is going to score a ton more points. I think Georgia Tech only scores 21 there just because they're playing at a really fast pace. I mean, Clemson blew them out. And yeah, you keep saying Syracuse is good, and they might be okay, but they might be really bad too. They might be terrible. I don't know. They played Wagner, UConn, Western Michigan, and then the biggest cupcake of them all in Florida State. So, who have they really played?
Yeah, but
have they played a good defense?
Holding Florida State to 7 and putting up 30. I mean, that's a blowout of a.
That game was 3-0 at halftime, though, or something ridiculous.
I get it.
It's not like Syracuse was flying all over the field putting up points. I think they put up at least 14 of those points in the fourth quarter, if not 17. It was a close game there.
Dude, I just refreshed the page. It's now 24.
So this thing, everyone was kind of my thinking where it's Syracuse is not as good as they appear, and Clemson is starting to figure things out with Trevor Lawrence. So I liked it at the 22.5. I don't know if I want to put 24 points is a lot, especially Syracuse is a team that's used to scoring, and they could backdoor this one. So you know what? I'm just going to take my money off this. It's kind of playing devil's advocate at this point, just because it has gotten high. But man, if that thing comes back down, definitely look to get Clemson if that hits 22 or 21. But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. I just don't know. Syracuse hasn't really played anybody, and Clemson's really starting to click.
Yeah, no, hey, it could happen. I just think 24 is a lot of points for a team that scores points. Like, this isn't like an Ole Miss team where they would score a lot of points against bad teams. This is a team that scores a lot of points. Like, you know, that's like what they do. So I think that they're going to come out. I think they're going to score a lot of points in this game. And you know what? They could still give up 63 points, but could they score 35? Absolutely. You know, so I think that that would still
63-35. Yeah, I was going to say that's
cover. But anyway, they could score in the 40s. I mean, I think that they can score points is what I'm saying. Like, they can give up points, but for a team that scores, this isn't like a Rutgers where they're 24-point underdogs. That means you need Rutgers to score 14 points. Like, and you're like sitting there sweating because Rutgers literally can't move the ball past their own 25-yard line. This is different. This is a team that gets into the end zone, and they could jump out to a 7-0 lead on Clemson on their first drive. I wouldn't be surprised at all. You know, so I like the plus 24.
I don't know. I don't think Syracuse has seen a defense like this, and I think that's why the action's coming in on Clemson. The revenge factor also very, very big. I mean, Clemson has been looking at this game. I think that's probably why it's gone up. I'm going to lay off this one.
Are you doing the over-under?
No, I'm just not going to touch it.
Wow, look at that. So Will avoids the Cuse Clemson game. All right. Well, the next one I got is West Virginia at Texas Tech. Texas Tech now ranked 25, even though they lost to Ole Miss week 1, but that was when their starting quarterback went down. So West Virginia is right now a 3.5-point favorite. And so this is one of those games I could see being a 3-point game. But I do think that West Virginia is the much better team here. I think Will Greer is a much better quarterback. I think West Virginia can just score at will. I still love that this Kansas State spread from last week when West Virginia won 35-6. Good job, Kansas State. Way to keep getting good spreads because your coach's name. So I look at this one and I say West Virginia is the much better team. Texas Tech, I know, just beat Oklahoma State, blew them out really. But
yeah, that wasn't a fluky win. That was a legitimate win.
I agree. But I just think West Virginia is the better team. I'm putting only 10 on it, though, for West Virginia minus 3.5 because it's at Texas Tech. And Texas Tech is going to be fired up. But what happens when that adrenaline wears off? I think West Virginia is going to settle in. Maybe Texas Tech goes up 7-0. Maybe they even go up 14-0. But West Virginia can score, and they can score a lot, and they can score fast. And I think that West Virginia eventually settles into this game, takes over, almost like a TCU versus SMU type thing. Obviously, Texas Tech is a better team than SMU, but almost like how that game was. It took TCU a while to get going, and then they just clicked. And I think that could be what happens here. Texas Tech comes out a little fired up, but I like West Virginia minus 3.5.
So you're even laying out here. This might be a good time to hop on a live bet if Texas Tech goes to an early lead. So if you're watching this game and want to bet this thing live, there you go.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I only have $10 on it. This is pretty much a lean from me, but it's a big game. So it'll be fun to watch this one. Big 12 football is fun. Yeah. 3.5. It's like, I feel like these teams only score touchdowns. So it could be 6.5 or a pick 'em. And it would be the same bet. So I'm not really worried about the 3.5 points. If field goal victory from West Virginia would very much surprise me. I don't think that'll happen. I think this will be a 10-point victory, whoever wins, at least a 10-point victory, maybe 7-point victory.
And West Virginia's defense is better than they get credit for.
Yeah, I mean, they held Kansas State to 6 points, and I don't know how good Kansas State, and we've now been pretty low on them after. I mean, that Mississippi State game was just ugly from Kansas State.
Oh, this was ugly too. I watched this whole game. This was a joke.
Yeah. So, 10 on West Virginia to cover 3.5 and 77. It's high. It's really high, and you really can't bet the under with these two teams. Like, you just can't bet it. You'll just stress yourself out. Like, these teams can score in 30 seconds. You'll never feel safe with an under, but it's too high for me to trust that on the over. So I'm not touching it.
And we saw last week Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech. That only went to 58, and that was set at 79.5. I think West Virginia's defense.
I was on that too.
Yeah, you were. That was a 21-point win.
That was an easy under.
And I think that West Virginia's defense is better than Oklahoma State's, but I also think their offense is better. So I don't want to touch this because this final could be 42-35, and you're looking right at 77. So I'm not going to touch this one. But I will say I'm glad we're in agreement on the West Virginia minus 3.5. I think West Virginia is the real deal. I really do. I think they're really good. But then again, I thought TCU was really good, and look what happened then. So
exactly.
It's always fun how that works out. All right, Will, I'm assuming you took Indiana at Rutgers, right?
Got to, man. Got to. I got $20 on Indiana to cover 17.5. At least that's what the line was last night. What's the current? Is it still 17.5? I mean, Rutgers is just this bad. I was looking through the scores of the Rutgers games and was even surprised to see that they had won a game. Like this team is so bad, giving up 52 points, 55 points, 42 points in each of their 3 losses. And yeah, they played Ohio State. But one of them was also Kansas. Like they got stomped by Kansas. Let's not forget that. This team is so bad. Indiana doesn't even need to play well for them to cover. I think Indiana can play a mediocre game and win by like 28 points. I mean, maybe one of these days Rutgers gets me here, but this has kind of been my play. So I got $20 on Indiana to cover. I mean, it's just they're that bad.
Yeah, I don't have anything on it because Indiana just doesn't score that much. And I know that this is Rutgers, so they'll probably put up 35 points. But I really don't know.
Kansas put up, I think, 52 points.
It was
like, I mean, 52 points from Kansas.
Trust me, I'm gonna regret not jumping on this, just like I regret not jumping on Buffalo last week. But I'm not gonna jump on it. And the one thing I will say though, and I'm all with Will. I have $250 out right now in terms of these bets. So that's why I kind of had to decide which ones do I want, which ones do I not. But I will say this. I said this on the last podcast. I'll say it now. I am from New Jersey. Rutgers does not have home field advantage. So if you're even like considering like, oh man, Indiana's got to go on the road, which is why they wouldn't do it, don't even think about it. Rutgers home field is a joke. So if there's any reason that you shouldn't be doing the minus 17.5, it's just because you don't think Indiana can score. Maybe they win this one 28-14 or 28-7.
How does Indiana only score 28 points?
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Yeah. Hey,
they'll put up 28 points in the first half. Hey. This game is going to be like 42-10. And it's going to be like, why were we even thinking that Rutgers could stay within 3 touchdowns?
You know what's weird, though, with Indiana, so their 3 home games, they've looked pretty good. I mean, they only lost by 14 to Michigan State last week. They beat Ball State by 28. That UVA
Virginia game, yeah, it was complete. Weather is a big reason why neither of those teams are scoring.
They only beat FIU at FIU 38-28. They gave up 28 points to FIU, who, like, we just watched with Miami. They scored 17 on Miami, but that was 17 points in 7 minutes.
Rutgers.
I hear you.
It's Rutgers.
It's
not comparable to Rutgers. No team is comparable to Rutgers at this point.
Rutgers is terrible.
FIU I would also take FIU at Rutgers probably minus 17.5.
I honestly might take Savannah State at Rutgers right now at this point, minus 17.5.
All right.
But anyway, this leads perfectly though into my next bet, which proves just how little respect I'm giving Rutgers. I got 10 on Army straight up at plus 275. And Army is going to Buffalo. So I know people are like really high on this Buffalo team right now. This spread is at 8.5 right now. So take the points if you'd want to take the points. Go ahead. Other than week 1, when Army lost by 20 to Duke. At Duke, Duke had their full team. Duke has proven to be really, really good. Army has looked really good this season. And I know you were over there and you're like, no, I can't tell if this team's good or not. They owned. I know they only beat Hawaii by 7, and Hawaii had the ball at the end with a chance to put the ball in the end zone. But they were up 14. They forced Hawaii to play their style of football, which is slow. And I think Army does it again against Buffalo. They did it to Oklahoma. That Oklahoma needed overtime to beat Army last week. And yeah, that's like Army's Super Bowl. But now Army's going to go. They're going to play a Buffalo team that's going to look to score fast and a lot. And not for nothing. Yes, Buffalo's undefeated. Yes, right now they're a good story. Everybody they played stinks. Like everybody they play isn't good. And I think Army is the best team they're playing. They beat Temple by 7 at Temple. Is Temple the second best team? Or will they be the best team they've played up to this point? Probably. So I think that Army, a team that just forced overtime against Oklahoma, getting plus 8.5 here, it's like disrespectful. I really do. I think that Army comes in here. I think they run. I think that they control the pace of this game. I think that people finally see that Buffalo, yes, they're a good football team, but they're not that great of a football team. They're not like what they did to Rutgers last week is because
did you see what they did to Rutgers?
You're playing against a high school football team.
Yeah, you cannot use that argument. Yeah. Like, did you see? Oh man, they look so good against Rutgers.
So like, I'm not even taking the points, but if you want to take the points, go for it. Plus 8.5, I think it's a steal. But you can hammer it. But 10 to win. I'm doing the 10 to win the 275 here. I think that Army wins this game straight up. Goes into Buffalo
10 to win 275
or to win 27.5. Thank you, Will.
There you go.
But anyway, I think that they go in there and I think they shock, air quotes, shock the Buffalo Bulls.
Yeah, I'm not touching this one. I was on Buffalo last week just because they're playing Rutgers. I'm with you. They haven't really played anyone that good yet. Army has looked impressive. I don't really know if Army's that good. Like, because I don't know if Oklahoma's that good. There's still so many questions. You'd think, the more these teams play, we'd kind of understand where everyone's at, but it's actually just more confusing because, some teams beat teams. I mean, the transitive property you just can run wild with. So I don't know. Overall this week, I mean, we saw last week a ton of upsets in college and then in the NFL too. It was kind of upset week. I'm looking through my bets now. I'm on majority of the favorites. And I know that's kind of a sucker way to bet, but I kind of like the favorites this week because a lot of teams kind of played out of themselves last weekend. So I kind of expect a return to normalcy. And I have a couple dogs later, but I'm not going to touch this one. And the over-under here is 51.5. I don't like that one bit because, like you're saying, we don't know if Buffalo is controlling the pace, then the thing goes over. If Army's controlling the pace, it goes under. And that's just hard to predict at this point. So I'm not going to.
And last week at Oklahoma in overtime, that only went to 49. I think Army comes out and controls the pace of this game. Also, this is my first of 4 straight up dogs this week.
Wow.
I have 4 straight up dogs.
Any. I have one I was flirting with, but I think
some teams are getting disrespected here, Will.
Yeah, like Rutgers.
Like Rutgers, oh my God. They're going to get disrespected also. If you're a Rutgers fan, maybe don't listen to our podcast. It's funny because my track coach from high school is a huge Rutgers fan, and I was like, how are they going to be this year? He's like, if they get some things going on offense, they could be okay. I texted him last week. I was like, when are they going to get some things going on offense? Like, what does some things mean? Does that mean like a first down? Like, what are you looking for here? Oh my gosh, it's terrible. They're so bad at football. Okay. Do you have anything on Oklahoma State, Kansas?
I do actually.
Okay.
I think this is another team right here. This is a favorite in Oklahoma State where they're going to bounce back. They, lost a tough one to Texas Tech. But again, got to look at these bad teams. Kansas is they're a bad team. They lost to Nicholls State, and it was the first game of the season. And we know they stopped Rutgers, but we've already said you can't use that as an argument to build up a team. They lost to Baylor 26-7. I think Oklahoma State is going to want to rebound, and they are fully capable of winning by 18 points. This is one where I fully expect Oklahoma State to just come out firing, and Kansas is not going to be able to keep up. So I've got $15 on it. I don't love it, but a lot of these lines, these lines have gotten smarter, it feels like, because I went through them and they didn't really jump out at me. I mean, there's a couple ones where you'll see me put $20. Those are ones I love, but I'm kind of spraying $10 to $15 bets out on just a lot of games and hoping I have the right reads, because these lines are a bit tricky. I mean, 18 is a weird number, and I'm now taking minus 18 on 2 separate occasions. So I am, putting my money in with the favorites to kind of take control back. So
you have 2 minus 18s and a minus 17.5 right now. I agree with what you're saying about Oklahoma State. I'm avoiding it though, just because they looked bad last week. I mean they got handled.
Texas Tech is good though. They looked really strong. So
I agree.
And I guess I've already put money on West Virginia to cover 3.5. And if West Virginia can't cover that, that means Texas Tech's actually really good, and that Oklahoma State will then probably cover this, cover the 18 here. But West Virginia can easily cover 30.5 against Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State still cover Kansas. So I feel like at worst, I go 1-1 on these bets. I don't think I go 0-2 on these bets. I think it's 1-1 or 2-0. So with that value, I like it.
Yeah, and Kansas lost 26-7 at Baylor last week. Like, Kansas isn't that good. They lost to Nickel State.
They're not. It's not that they aren't that good. They are bad.
Yeah.
So this is how we're doing it. Bet. It's like when you're picking your NFL survivor pool. Don't just look at the good teams. Look at the bad teams and pick against them. And I know Phil and I were in one, or you're still in one, where you can only pick against a team twice per season.
I took the Brownies last week, if anybody was wondering.
There you go. That's a ballsy pick, man. I took the Pats, and I am out, along with everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody who took the Pats, the Jags, and the Vikings. Oh my God, Josh Allen, the hero of all time. 37 people.
That was a tough one, especially because I knew everyone was already eliminated. I'm like, phew, didn't take the Jags or the Vikes. And then the Pats did what they did.
Patricia was just reading off of the Patriots playbook. But anyway, my next right. I mean, okay, we don't need to get into cheating, right? Next up, I got NC State covering against Virginia -6. I think that Ryan Finley and NC State's offense is too much for Virginia to keep up with here. This keeps going down. It was like originally at 7. Now it's down to 6. It's at NC State. I like what Virginia's done this season. I think Bryce Perkins is a really good dual threat quarterback. I think that the way he's played, they could be undefeated. They could have beaten they could have beaten Indiana. That was just such a sloppy game. They were still in it right till the end. It was hard to get.
The game was brutal.
It was hard to get the ball moving. I mean, it was pouring. It was like a monsoon. So I think that UVA is a good football team, and I also think that's why this spread is as low as it is. UVA is just not going to be able to score with NC State. I mean, we saw it last week. Everybody's talking about Marshall's team, and then NC State goes down there and they beat them 37-20. Like I like NC State to win this game by 2 touchdowns. Ryan Finley is having some season right now. I mean, he throws for over 350 yards every single game. It doesn't matter. So this is the best team Virginia's played. It's a road game. Take NC State -6. I got 15 on it.
I feel like you take the Virginia game every week. You're pretty up on what's happening over there with the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I mean, because I do the ACC power rankings for Kane's Insight, so I'm always like looking at like what did Virginia do this week, and Bryce Perkins is good, but Virginia's like a season away from being that good. Do you know what I mean? Like last season, they had a really overachieving year. This year, being 3-1, beating Louisville 27-3. They beat Louisville 27-3 because Louisville sucks. Like they are trash. Louisville is more of a train wreck than FSU ever was or ever could be. Louisville and Rutgers might have been like the best football game of the season. So, that's how I feel about that.
Gotcha. You got any action on Temple at BC?
I don't.
That's where you think BC bounces back from the Purdue loss at home. Temple, it's at 13.5 right now. I think last time I saw it. So if you can get 2 touchdowns, there you go. I'm leaning BC, but I don't have anything on it. Just wanted to see what your thoughts were there.
They screwed me last week, and I still can't get a read on Temple, so I'm avoiding it. I don't want to touch it. Yeah, I'm not going near it. But the next one. The next one I have is Pitt at UCF. Do you have anything before that?
Yep. I think we're going to be in agreement here.
Oh, so you don't have anything before that one. So Pitt at UCF. UCF is now down to -14, Will.
Oh, just loaded on.
I mean,
it's loaded on. It's insane. Like this, I don't understand. I mean, this is going to be our 3rd week in a row, like where UCF is favored only by 2 touchdowns. And they were favored by 2 touchdowns against UNC. That game gets canceled. But last week, like, what was it, Florida Atlantic?
Yeah.
I mean, Florida Atlantic started scoring points late, but UCF had that thing locked up pretty much the whole game. UCF scores points. They blow people out. Mackenzie Milton is a beast. I mean, he is impressive. And this is against a Power 5 team. UCF loves stomping down, like, the lower tier Power 5 teams. This is a Pitt team that lost to UNC. Lock this one up for me. It might be the lock of the week. $20 for me on UCF to cover. And if it's down to 14, I mean, I saw it at 15 last night and loved it. But
it was at 15.5 and it's gone down.
Even better. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm not touching the over-under. just because I don't trust Pitt to score at all. Yeah, I can't rely on one team. But I mean, I would betting a UCF under is scary. So I'm never going to bet the under and then the over, like I said. So yeah, just give me that spread all day.
Yeah, this will be my rule all season. Anytime UCF is the clearly better team and only favored by 2 touchdowns, I'm taking them every single time. They are so much better than Pittsburgh. They were so much better than FAU. They are so much better than UNC. Anytime I can get this team
much better than UConn.
So much better than UConn. Anytime I can get this team at only -14. I know it's like only -14. McKenzie Milton is nuts, man. He is so good. He can run, he can pass. It doesn't matter. McKenzie Milton's going to come out. He's going to put up 56 points like he's done twice already this season. And UCF's going to win this game 56-21. So I got 15 on the over 66. I got 20 on UCF -14. I mean, last week it was 56-36.
Yeah, not for nothing. Like, look at Nebraska. Like, they're bad. I mean, they'll get it together. But Scott Frost, you might start thinking, man, maybe McKenzie Milton, like that's where all that magic was. Like that's where the wins were coming from. It wasn't the coaching.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, look, I think Scott Frost, it always takes time to build a program. Come on. But build a program back up.
I think McKenzie Milton's that good. He's won like 20 straight games. It's great.
Well, and this is one of those games where their first loss isn't going to be to Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to lose at home to Pitt. Pitt just lost to UNC. UCF didn't have to travel anywhere because they played FAU last week. So they're just hanging out in Orlando, getting ready for this game. And this is like, I don't know. I just don't understand the disrespect of UCF. I just don't understand it. I think, what are they ranked now in the country? Are they 15? They're 13. They're ranked 13 in the country. Pitt's coming in. And I know Pitt beat Miami last year. This UCF team scores so many points. There's no way Kenny Pickett and the Pitt offense is putting up as many points as UCF. McKenzie Milton's going to blow them out of the water. It's just going to happen. Like, I would be really shocked if somehow Pitt kept this within two touchdowns. So I agree with you. 20 on the spread, 15 on the over. Let's move on to the next game.
All right.
I love it.
You got anything on Texas State?
I was going to bet Texas, but I'm going to avoid it. This could be a little bit of a letdown game for Texas. Texas, I mean, just had a huge win. They've had back-to-back really big wins for them. So I think I'm going to avoid this game. I'm a little scared. Kansas State isn't good. They're a bad team, but they're at home. And I could see maybe Texas having a little letdown, maybe only winning this game by 3. Texas is going to win, but I don't know if I trust them to win by 8.5 right now.
Man, I want to take Texas so badly. -8.5.
It's a great spread.
It's like, I mean, because Kansas State is just, they look terrible. But you can't trust Texas, not after just one big win. Because USC, I mean, USC isn't really doing anything for me either. Like, they beat Washington State by 3 points. So, yeah, staying with them. Move on. We got Purdue going to Nebraska.
You're going to Nebraska? No, you're skipping. You went too far.
I'm sorry. Where were we headed next?
We're going to East Carolina. And we have the Old Dominion Turkey Killers taking on the East Carolina Pirates. This is the ultimate trap. East Carolina -6.5. Hammer it. Just hammer it. I got 20 on it. Old Dominion is a terrible football team. Yes, they beat Virginia Tech, but they're a terrible football team. So don't fall for this trap. Put all your money on East Carolina -6.5. They only have to win by a touchdown. Remember, this Old Dominion team that just beat Virginia Tech, they lost by 42 to Liberty, who lost by 40 to North Texas. So that means they're 82 points worse than North Texas, right? That's by the transitive property here. So look, Old Dominion's not good. They were looking forward to this game all season. This was the biggest game. This was the biggest win they've ever had. Not going to happen again. -6.5 East Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear everything you're saying. It is, but I don't want to bet against Old Dominion right now. Like, I don't want to rely to not get it done. I mean, they're fired at that win. You're like, damn, like we can do it. Like, they put up 28 points against VT in the fourth quarter. And Josh Jackson is out for VT. Like, their quarterback got hurt. But that's still putting up points against VT's defense. So, I mean, your play is correct. I just don't like it enough.
No, this is when you have to take these, though. Same thing with Penn State when they went to Pittsburgh and after they almost lost to Appalachian State. Teams have one game. You know, this was Old Dominion's one game. They lost by 8 at home against FIU. They lost at Charlotte. You know, so I look at this game. They were looking forward to that Virginia Tech game. They got it at home. Now they're going to East Carolina. They're on top of the world, and they are going to. I think they're just going to implode. I mean, this is the time you have to jump on it because if Old Dominion had lost to Virginia Tech, then this game would be a 20-point spread. So to get this at 6.5, East Carolina, like I'm not sitting here going East Carolina is like this great football team because they're not a great football team, but you know East Carolina did lose by just 7 to USF at USF, and USF's like decent. They killed UNC 41-19. I know they lost to NCA&T, but that was week 1. So I like East Carolina here, minus 6.5. I think that's an easy touchdown.
All right. Yeah. Last time you've convinced me on games, and I've hopped on both of them lost. That was like week 3, I believe. So I'm not going to hop on it with you, even though you make some good points.
Okay. Well, now you can go to your Nebraska game.
Okay. This is Purdue going to visit Nebraska, and I took Purdue last because I thought they were 0-3 games. They're at home for kind of an early game. I think this is just a game that Nebraska needs. Like they need to win. There's so much excitement with Scott Frost. And I just got 3 straight losses, and they got stomped by Michigan. It was embarrassing. What's the spread out right now? I think.
What, on the Nebraska game?
I saw it at.
It's at 3.5. Purdue's favored.
Yeah, I think this is one where I'm just going to have to take Nebraska straight up here, and it scares me because I think Purdue is a pretty good football team, but Nebraska is going to win one at the end. I think that's where your value's at. I don't think 3.5 is big enough to take it. So I'm just going to go on the underdog Nebraska, and they haven't shown me that much to have faith. But again, this is like Purdue's coming off a big win. They probably feel pretty good, pretty confident, and they might sleep on this Nebraska team that's been getting blown out. They might not be ready to go on the road and take this game head on. So yeah, I got Nebraska at plus 140.
At plus 140.
It's like my first underdog. I mean, I'm taking just all favorites. I think these lines are they're just too low because of what the underdogs did last week. In some of these situations, at least.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I stay away from that Nebraska-Purdue game. I can't get a read on either of them. I think Purdue had their best game of the season last week, obviously, against Boston College, but was that just because it was against Boston College? Now they're playing their first game away from home.
Yep. And this is one of those times where it's like
next one.
Okay, you go for it.
The next one I got is Florida State Louisville. I have 10 on Florida State minus 6.5 and 15 on the under at 47. Louisville's offense is terrible. They do not have an offense. They scored 3 points against Virginia. No matter who's quarterback, Jawan Pass or Malik Cunningham, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. They can't score. They got really lucky beating Western Kentucky 20-17. They only had, I think, 10 points going into the fourth quarter against Georgia State, or was it Georgia Southern? Whoever it was. Or I'm sorry, it was Indiana State. Sorry. And they ended up winning 31-7. Good for you, Louisville. You had a big win. And in week 1, they only put up, I think, 14 against Alabama, who definitely laid off the gas. So Louisville can't score. Florida State looked pretty good last week. I know it was just Northern Illinois, but they did look much, much better. They're a much better football team, I think, than Louisville. They have much more talent than Louisville. So I think Florida State wins this one maybe 24-3. Maybe they even win it just 17-3, 17-10, but only as a touchdown favorite. I love it, and I don't see either of these teams getting anywhere into the 20s. I don't see both teams getting into the 20s, that's for sure. So I'll even say 20, even at a 28-17, I still get the under, and I think that's absolute best case scenario for Louisville is putting up 17 points. So I like both of these.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't want to bet on Florida State, though. I mean, they're like they have a chance to blow out this team, but it's Florida State. This team has not looked good. So I'm gonna pass on that one. Let's go to Northwestern.
You love Northwestern.
I bet against Northwestern twice. 3 times, I think, this season. I think I had Purdue in the opener, and that was kind of a fluke win for Northwestern. They got a really lucky break at the end of that game to prevent Purdue from kicking a field goal or getting the ball back. So again, this is just a Northwestern team that's bad. I had Duke straight up. I had Akron plus 21. Both of those hit. And Michigan is looking dominant. They've scored, let's see, I think it's been 49, 45, and 56 points in their 3 games since Notre Dame. So they're putting up points. And those were against SMU, Nebraska, and Western Michigan. But Northwestern probably loses to most of those teams. So I think Michigan here puts up a ton of points. And, with a team like that, you got to look at the margin just getting wider and wider between the two teams, just the more they play. So I think 14 here is just not enough. 2 touchdowns. I love the is it still at 14?
It is still at 14.
Michigan wins by 2 touchdowns easily. I think they blow them out, but they can win by 2 touchdowns and push too. So you got to like that. Lots of value there. I got $20 on Michigan. And then this over-under is at 48. I know Northwestern didn't play last week. They've had time to prepare for Michigan, but that's way too low. Like I said, 49 points from Michigan, 45 points, 56 points. I mean, Michigan could hit 48 on their own. And again, I think that pace, they're going to be playing at Michigan's pace, not Northwestern's. So this thing goes over 48. I'm pretty confident in that. So I got $20 on it. So it's a big one for me.
Yeah, I think that game goes over, but I'm not going to touch it in case Michigan goes to one of their stupid 24-17 games or something like that, or maybe Northwestern. Maybe Northwestern doesn't score. Michigan wins 35-7.
Yeah, maybe. I just think Michigan puts up more points than that. Like they just put up 56 on Nebraska. And I think Nebraska could beat Northwestern. So, I mean, Michigan's clicking right now, and Northwestern is a bad team. They lost to Akron.
I agree.
So,
Akron played Iowa State tough last week.
I know Akron's good.
Yeah,
but
all right.
They also gave up a huge lead to. I mean, they're just Northwestern is going to give it. Northwestern's defense is not that good. So
I got you. What's your next game? The next one I got is VT at Duke.
Let's go to I don't know about this game. I don't love it, but Florida at Mississippi State.
I ran away from that game.
I don't even like it. It's but I just think 7.5 points is a lot right now to give Mississippi State. And I get they're at home, but Florida's only loss is to Kentucky, who is looking like a pretty decent football team. And Mississippi State just played Kentucky and lost by 3 touchdowns. So if you're just comparing that one matchup right there, that's plus 10 heading in Florida's way. They would be gaining 10 there. So, and since that loss to Kentucky, Florida's played Colorado State and Tennessee, and they've been able to pretty much handle those teams. So I don't love this. Got $10 on it. This is one where it's I didn't like many ones. Give me my leans here. I'm just leaning Florida to cover plus 7.5. They can lose by a touchdown and still cover. I think they have a chance to win this game outright. So give me that $10 on Florida plus 7.5.
Yeah, the reason I'm not picking this game, I thought about it, but the reason I'm not picking it is because Mississippi State hasn't proven anything, and this is one of those SEC favoritism things. And yes, the SEC is the best conference in football right now. You can see it. It's obvious with LSU and Georgia and Alabama. But the way I look at this is Mississippi State beat Kansas State. That was their best win going into Kentucky, and then they lose by 3 touchdowns. So is Kentucky good, or did they just beat a bad Mississippi State team? And Florida, are they any good? I don't know if either of these teams are good or if they've just kind of played crappy competition. So I'm just going to avoid this one.
And that's why I think 7 points is a lot. Mississippi State could possibly be like not a very good football team, and there's a chance Florida like blows this team out. And I think when you're not sure about both these team opponent, it's like a 7, and why is it a touchdown then? Like I think Florida, and especially Florida's looked good in its past 2 weeks, whereas Mississippi State is coming off the 21-point loss to Kentucky. And that was week 1 for Florida. Like Florida has had time to improve. And 7.5 points. I mean, I can see Mississippi State winning by a field goal, winning by 7. Like that's all good. Give me those points.
Yeah. Well, the next one I got, like I said, was VT at Duke. And Duke's -5 here. I got 15 on Duke to cover that. This is a tricky game because, normally a team gets embarrassed like Virginia Tech did. It's like, here's our bounce back game. We're back. Here we come. We're going to go. We're going to blow out our division rival, show that we're still in the hunt for the Coastal. I hope Virginia Tech wins this game because I got my Miami versus Virginia Tech tickets already, and I really want that game to be for the Coastal. I don't want that to be just some pointless game that because Virginia Tech can't beat anybody except Florida State, it means nothing. But with Josh Jackson being out indefinitely, they're just not going to be able to bounce back against the Duke defense. Duke's defense is just too good. Duke's defense has been shutting people down. They have 13 points in North Carolina Central. That wasn't even really close a game anyway. Quentin Harris replacing Daniel Jones has looked really good since he's been back in. So I think that Duke wins this one pretty easily. Virginia Tech needed to face a weak opponent this week to get back to where they were. But instead, they're going on the road. They're taking on a pretty a good team. Like I think that Duke could end up being like the surprise of this season because they just keep jumping up in the rankings. And I wouldn't be surprised if like Duke versus Miami ends up being for the Coastal, and Duke's undefeated going into that game. So I think that right now, Duke, they're just playing hot. They've gotten to play enough games without their starting quarterback. Virginia Tech's going to have to like learn how to get back to that. Get into the rhythm without Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson was so good, last season for them and this season for them. And now, on top of all of that, the only game that Virginia Tech has won that was supposed to be meaningful was a road win against Florida State where they looked dominant. But Florida State isn't that good. So, like, what do we know about Virginia Tech? We don't know anything. We know Duke. Doesn't matter who they lose, what happens. They've beaten Baylor, who's okay. They beat Northwestern, who we know isn't that good. They've beaten Army, who's okay, but they've beaten better caliber opponents than Virginia Tech has, and their defense is so good. So I love Duke to cover this -5.
Yep, I'm with you. I've been high on Duke all season. Like just from watching that first Army Duke game, it was clear that Duke has talent, and even when the quarterback goes down, like you said, like their offense is fine, and when their quarterback did go down, I still took Duke straight up against Baylor because their defense is what keeps them in games, and their defense is really good. And Virginia Tech is going to have to figure things out with their backup quarterback on the road against a really good defense. I was telling you when we were leaving, watching the Oregon-Stanford game when VT had just lost Old Dominion, I was like, damn, like I wanted Virginia Tech to be undefeated going in to play Duke, and maybe Virginia Tech would be favored. I thought that was a very strong possibility, and then just hammer Duke straight up because I think Duke probably has a chance to beat Josh Jackson. So I think 5 points here when you've got the backup quarterback. I think that's great if you can get this under the touchdown. So I'm with you. I got 15 on Duke to cover those 5 points.
Cool. Now, do you have anything on the Iowa State at TCU game?
I do not. Those are, I mean, TCU is confusing. I mean, they hang in with a great Ohio State team. At least I think they're great. We'll find out this weekend. And then they lose to Texas. And that wasn't a fluke loss either. I mean, Texas handled them. The score at the end, like Texas, they had that late touchdown. And I mean, the thing was TCU couldn't stop Texas from getting first downs. It was like Texas could move the ball 5 or 6 yards at will on any given play and just keep moving the sticks. And it was brutal to watch as you thought, okay, TCU will get the ball back, can score quickly. Like TCU's not down and out, but it was a slow burn where Texas just couldn't stop moving the ball. So it was not a fluky win whatsoever. Don't want to really touch TCU right now. I don't really know where they at. They are the most confusing team to me.
Yeah, that game, TCU was winning 16-10, and I looked over at you and said, if TCU was playing better, they'd be winning. And you were like, they are winning. And I was like, oh, crap, that's right. They do have more points. But it was just like, even when they were winning, it was obvious Texas was going to win that game. They just looked so much better than TCU.
I mean, I kept having hope that, like, okay, TCU is just going to, like, turn this thing on and figure it out like they did against SMU, like they did in the first half against Ohio State, just kind of get it together, especially on defense, and they could not stop Texas from moving the ball. It was sad, especially when it was like my favorite line last week, one of my favorite lines, along with Buffalo against Rutgers.
Never forget.
But yeah, that was brutal.
All right, well, next we got our first of 2 top 10 matchups. Ohio State going to Penn State. It's the ABC 7:30 game this week. This is a tough one because Ohio State we've seen playing more, but then again, like, is TCU that good? We watched them demolish Rutgers, but what good does that do anybody? Penn State's really figured it out since week 1. It's at Penn State. I see this being a dogfight. I see this being a typical Big Ten. This is for this is for supremacy in the conference right now. I don't know. I probably lean Ohio State to win, but I got Penn State at +3.5. I got 10 on it. They're at home. They could lose by a field goal and still get this, and I could see this coming down to a field goal at the end of the game to determine who ends up winning and who goes home with a huge loss here. So I like Penn State +3.5. I got 10 on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just taking the points because I can see this game going either way. Take the home dog if you can. If it's a close matchup like this, I mean, we really don't know. We know both these teams like to score. The over-under is a bit tricky because, like you're saying, it could get into like a dogfight where they're just, they get really physical and slow. But these teams like to score. I mean, the fewest points Penn State's put up this season is 45 points. And the fewest Ohio State's put up is 40 points. So over-under's at 67.5. You got to think that's going to go over.
It's up to 70.5 now. It's gone up that much.
Man. So I don't get that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it at 67.5.
70.5 is a whole nother touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a field goal on top of the 67.
But what I'm saying is that means to get to 70, that means 10 touchdowns. You have to get more than 10. You have to get 10 touchdowns as opposed to before you only needed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's dicey there. I'm probably not going to take it now. I'll just axe that. I only had 10 on it anyway because I do, what you said, kind of like this is going to be a battle. I can see it slowing down a bit. So I just give me $10 on Penn State to cover. But man, that overnight, like that was last night. It was at 67.5, and that shot up 3 points. I mean, that's less than 12 hours ago. So, darn, missed that one.
No, I hear you. And you know what though? This is the Big Ten. Sometimes the defenses come to play in the big games where you've been watching all season. You're like,
I mean, I guess that's the play. That's the thinking now. If this thing keeps going up, like if this goes up another 3 points, give me the under. Even though it'll be hard to watch an under, especially if they come out, with 14-14 out of the first quarter, which
could very easily happen.
That's kind of how these two teams play. So I'll probably stay away from this one.
All right. Next one is the second top 10 matchup. Stanford coming off that absolutely ridiculous comeback. Going to Notre Dame to take on Notre Dame, who with the Ian Book looks like they're suddenly figuring things out. That offense came to play against Wake. They put up 56. They looked really good. I will say in this game, I think Stanford right now is at 5.5-point dogs. They're 5.5.
Woo! They were 4.5 last night.
They're up to 5.5-point dogs. I'm taking Stanford straight up, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm taking Stanford straight up. I have them at +185. I got 10 on it. Here's my reasoning why. Last week was a loss. They lost to Oregon last week, and yet they escaped with a victory. They somehow did that. They needed everything to go right. They needed Oregon to fumble on their 4-yard line. They needed Oregon to fumble when they were trying to run out the clock. They needed every single thing in that game to go right, and it did. Stanford got their wake-up call, and they survived it with a victory. Now they go to play Notre Dame, who with Ian Book looked really good last week, but Wake Forest had no tape on Ian Book. Stanford now has tape on Ian Book. Yes, this is at Notre Dame, so give Notre Dame the advantage there, but I really do think that Stanford – when they were walking off the field, the lineman turned to KJ Costello and said, hey, man, we got to do that earlier next time. And I really think that this is a team that realizes, all right, let's go. Let's get out there. Let's put some points on the board. The offense of Notre Dame isn't as good as the offense of Oregon. I don't care if it's Ian Book. Justin Herbert's a better quarterback. Justin Herbert was throwing dimes all game last week. So I like Stanford to win this one. If you want to take the points, I think it's probably going to be like a 3-point game either way, maybe, because that's just the way Stanford plays. I think that Stanford let Oregon play their game last week and still won. Now Stanford comes, they impose their will on Notre Dame. I think this game is played in like the teens, maybe the low 20s, and I think Stanford escapes with a 3-point victory. So I got them straight up 10 to win 18.5.
Yeah, wow, I didn't see the straight up play happening. It's this line moved a point in favor of Notre Dame overnight. So, I mean, if this thing keeps going up and that money line keeps getting sweeter, then maybe I'll hop on that. Right now I've got $15 on Stanford to cover 5.5. I'm with you. It's pretty much, this is a bounce back game for Stanford. Even though they beat Oregon, it's like, all right, they realize they've got a lot of issues that they're going to need to fix. And, Notre Dame, Stanford, that's a big rivalry. They play every year. Teams don't like each other. So Stanford will be ready for this one. And yeah, I mean, like you said with Ian Book, the book's out on him now a little bit.
Oh, look at that.
So there you go. I hope it's frustrating watching Stanford sometimes. Like, they run the ball so much, and Bryce Love, he's amazing, runner-up in the Heisman last year. But the book's also out on Stanford. Like, teams know that. They commit to stopping the run, and David Shaw just refuses to pass, it's just so frustrating. And then when they do pass, it's like, oh, Arcega Whiteside can go up and pretty much get any ball against any DB in the country. Like, he is that good of a receiver. It's insane how you can just toss it up there. He'll go get it. You don't, like, KJ Costello doesn't need to be accurate for that offense to move the ball. And I just hope they try to I know it's always establish the run. Stanford needs to do the opposite. They need to establish a passing game early. Then they can run the ball when, the defense sees how the game is going. It worries me, though. Like, Notre Dame did look a lot better. I only got, 15 on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Stanford, now that they have the tape on them, I keep saying it, and it's going to get to the point where it just sounds ridiculous. I really think this is Stanford's year. I think they're going to be the Pac-12 team who gets into the playoff. I think they're going.
Wow.
I really
this is coming from you.
This is coming from me, and if you've been listening to us from the start, I hate the Pac-12. I mean, I always think, oh, they're overrated. The Pac-12 is, you got the up and down here, but been watching a lot more Pac-12 this season, and Oregon's really good, but Stanford still got them. And
I think that's also why this line is probably heading in Notre Dame's favor. It's like, oh, Stanford, they shouldn't have won that game, so they shouldn't be where they are. And it's like, Stanford shouldn't have won that game, but going on the road and playing Oregon is that's not an easy win. And I know that they did have to pull out all the stops and get all the lucky breaks possible to win, but that's a good Oregon football team with a really, really talented quarterback. So that win still means something. And I don't know about playoff for Stanford, because their coach, David Shaw, he's so conservative. I don't know if he has the guts. Like, if this comes down to the end, the fourth quarter, and this is a close game, I'm going to be glad I have my 5.5 points in my pocket. And you might be sweating that money line, because they might just run the ball up the middle and try to get it first down, and then either lose it on fourth and 1, just put all the linemen in and go for it and get stopped like they did twice against Oregon. and then you lose. So I feel pretty comforted with this 5.5. They will, I hope, at least keep it close. I think we've talked about Stanford enough now. I enjoy it, but maybe we move on.
Yes. The next one I have South Carolina, Kentucky.
Let's go to BYU at Washington.
So you want to go there? You want to skip South Carolina, Kentucky, and go to BYU?
Oh no, I thought BYU Washington comes first.
No, it's actually.
Go ahead.
I have 3 games before BYU Washington.
Oh, okay. Wow, I really jumped the gun there.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I got South Carolina plus 110. I got 15 on them to win straight up. They're only 1-point underdogs, but I think they're better.
I didn't even see it at plus 110.
What?
I didn't even see the line at plus 110. I saw plus 105, and at that point, I'm like, well, just give me the 1.5.
I looked this morning and it said plus 110.
Okay, well, if it's trending that way, maybe I'm with you. I got $10 on them plus 1.5 just because the money line was pretty much non-existent.
Yeah. I think they're better. I mean, I think they beat Vandy at Vandy bad, and this was a team that people were really high on. You know, South Carolina's only loss this season was to Georgia. So
and they hung in with Georgia for a half of football. I know the final score doesn't show that, but
and like Kentucky, yeah, they're 4-0. It's a good story. They beat Florida, they beat Mississippi State, but like we just said with Florida and Mississippi State, are either of them good? I have no idea. They could both be bad. I mean, this is the thing with the SEC. The teams beat each other, and we're always like, oh, well, that's a good loss. When does it become not a good loss? So I think that Kentucky, sure, they can be ranked this week. I think South Carolina goes down there. I think they're the better team, and I think they beat them. You know, if you can get them as an underdog, why not take it? And then the next one I have is North Texas minus 7.5 against Louisiana Tech. Do you have anything on this one? I have 15.
You love North Texas.
I love North Texas. So here's the thing. I was talking to my friend, and I said, keep an eye out. Coming up, Louisiana Tech's playing LSU really good, and they got North Texas next week. That line's going to be way smaller than it should be. Sure enough, it was way smaller than it should be. So Louisiana Tech had like an upset bid down at LSU. That, you know, they were playing them really tight. LSU need to score late. I think it was 24-21 late in that game. North Texas, though, just scores points. And we all know. What's
this line at?
This line's at 7.5.
Ooh, okay. I said I wouldn't do this, but I might have to join you on this, especially because some of these lines have moved so much that I have taken away bets like that Clemson Syracuse one, and I think that Ohio State Penn State over shot up. So yeah, let me hop on this with you. I said I wouldn't do it, but this North Texas train is moving quickly, and I got to hop on.
It's the same thing that always happens with LSU and why they were able to get upset by Troy last year and things like that. LSU is never a team that blows other teams out. So like, it's no surprise to me that they're only up 24-21 on a team that they should be beating badly in the fourth quarter. Like, that doesn't surprise me. North Texas, though, only scores points. And people were saying, like last week, where North Texas was 13-point favorite over Liberty. Some people were picking Liberty to cover that and like it be a 1-score game. North Texas won by 40. They won by 40. And it's not just their offense that looks really good. Their defense also looks really good. So I got 15 on them minus 7.5. If this was minus 7, I would have done 20. But there's a chance that they only win this by a touchdown because of Louisiana Tech doing something late. But Louisiana Tech last week was their Super Bowl. They lost their Super Bowl. How do you recover after losing a game like that where you're in it till the very ending? You know, that's the game you've had circled on your calendar all year. North Texas doesn't care about Louisiana Tech. This isn't who they've had circled on their calendar all year. They didn't have Liberty circled on their calendar all year. They're just going to keep doing what they've been doing all season, and that's winning, and winning by a lot. And I think they go in here, and I think they win this one easily, probably by 3 touchdowns. But right now, minus 7.5, I'll do 15.
I'll go 15 with you.
Okay, there you go. That means it's an auto loss because Will hopped on, and I can never win those.
I mean, I said I wouldn't do it, but it's just, if this one loses again, I will have to never do it. Yeah. Because then it's just like, then it's just bad luck.
Hey, man.
I'm sorry.
I feel you. All right. And my last of my 4 underdogs, my last one, and this is definitely the one where I'm going out on a limb a little bit, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw some love their way because I think Marshall's overrated. I got Western Kentucky straight up $10 to win 21 plus 210. Western Kentucky could easily be 3-1 instead of 1-3. They're 3-1 against the spread this season. They covered the spread against Wisconsin. They lost to Louisville by 3, but they had Louisville beat the entire game and then gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to end up losing it. They did lose to Maine early in the season, but it was like right after their Wisconsin game, which that they were prepping for Wisconsin. They just beat a Ball State team last week. That's actually pretty good. They beat them by 8. They're 6.5-point dogs here. I think that Marshall is one of those teams that has been like getting a lot of credit, but I don't really know why. They beat Miami, Ohio. They beat Eastern Kentucky, but like then they go and they play NC State as only 6-point dogs and lose by 17. Against Eastern Kentucky, they were 31-point favorites and only won by 16. So I think that Western Kentucky has been in games where they can win, and I think this is one where they finally get over the hump. They get them at home. Marshall was definitely looking more forward to that NC State game than they are to this game. And I think Western Kentucky surprises people and pulls this one out. I got them at plus 210.
Okay. I'm not going to hop on that one with you.
I don't blame you.
I mean, Louisville, you keep saying is that bad, and then you're going to take a team that lost to Louisville to win straight up. And I get all your points. I'm just saying that's where, like, if Western Kentucky just doesn't bring it, then it's over quickly for you. But it's probably the right play with the straight up pick. So
I hope. All right, now we can do the one and the only BYU at Washington. Well, go ahead. You wanted to talk about it. You go first.
Sure, man. I don't even love this one. Got $10 on BYU to cover 17.5. They can lose by 17 points and still cover. So, I mean, Washington doesn't blow teams out. We've said this a bunch now, and we've seen it a bunch now. They only beat Arizona State by 7, beat Utah by 14. They don't give up many points, but they don't score a lot either. So for a team that doesn't score a lot, like they might score 24 points this game and win handily, but it could be, 24-7, 24-10.
Absolutely.
BYU can hang also. Beat Wisconsin. They almost came back and beat Cal in a kind of a wacky game, handled Arizona. So, I mean, it's not like BYU is a team that hasn't played anybody. Like, we've seen them play and we've seen them hang. So, I mean, and Wisconsin's a pretty similar team to Washington. I think BYU has proven they can like play that kind of football, especially within 17.5 points, keep it close.
Yeah.
So I do expect Washington to win this game easily, but it's just not Washington's MO to kind of unleash their offense, because their offense just isn't that good. It's not how they win games. So
I have 15 on BYU to cover the 17.
There you go. You like it too. I only got $10 just because, it's BYU. Like, they beat Wisconsin. Washington's at home, and you can see a 21-point win one of these games. But I do like it.
Yeah, I think BYU, I'm kind of surprised at how big this line is. I was expecting closer to 10, and then I'd probably go with Washington. But 17, and we said it last week, Washington was favored by 17 against
Arizona. And a half. Don't forget the hook.
And a half. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. But that's what I mean. Like, they were favored by 18 last week against Arizona State, only won by 7. They were favored by 4 against Utah, and they won 21-7. But I don't think Utah's as good as people were saying Utah is. So I'm kind of surprised BYU seemed to figure out how to play Wisconsin. Why wouldn't they be able to figure out how to play Washington? Like you said, they're a very similar style. So I like BYU to keep this one close and still lose by 2 touchdowns, still lose by double digits, but they keep it close long enough that by the time this other touchdown comes, that's it. And you saw what Washington did that Oregon failed to do. When they had a lead at the end of the game, they gave the ball to I always forget his name. What is the name of the quarterback? Why does this always escape me?
Jake Browning?
Jake Browning. Thank you. I don't know why I can't remember that. I want to say Fromm every time. That's why. But they give the ball to Jake Browning, and he just runs around in a circle. And then he lays down so that plenty of time runs off the clock. And you might not be a kneeling situation, but so that plenty of time runs off. And then you just sit down. So Washington's a pretty conservative team. I like BYU to hang around just long enough. 17.5 is a lot of points, especially for a team BYU's ranked 20th. They already have a big upset in Wisconsin. I like BYU to keep it close.
And even if BYU hadn't beat Wisconsin, I think this might be a pretty good bet just with how Washington plays. So the fact that they've already beaten a team that was in the top 10 and are used to that kind of environment, They were on the road too when they beat Wisconsin. So yeah, I do like that one. Let's move to Oregon State at Arizona State. I think this is similar thinking. Arizona State, like, again, I'll go back to that Herm Edwards quote. Like, they don't like scoring points. He even said, like, coaches worry too much about scoring. He's also an NFL-minded coach where it's like clock management, time of possession. Like, those are all things that he's thinking about. And it's 21.5 point spread. Arizona State can win by 3 touchdowns and you still cover if you're on Oregon State, which I'm on. I only got $10 on it. But I don't think this is one of those times where Arizona State's going to blow Oregon State out of the water, because that's just not how, just similar to Washington, that's not how this Arizona State team is playing. So give me $10 on that.
Yeah, if I was going to lean one way, I'd lean with you there, but I'm going to avoid that game just because I don't know. I don't trust Oregon State to do anything. So I'm going to avoid that.
I don't know. Like, Oregon State put up 31 points against Ohio State, and yeah, they gave up 77 or whatever it was, or like 75. But like, Oregon State, when they lose, they still put up points. So I don't expect Arizona State to like get out to a 35-point lead or anything close to that. Because I think Oregon State will at least be able to score. And if Oregon State can't score, then Arizona State won't score. Like, it's almost like ASU just scores when they need to. Mm-hmm. Like they'll do like the minimum amount of scoring to win the game. Like that Michigan State Arizona State game, they were like just moving so slowly, but hey, they got the win. They kicked the field goal with no time left. That's how they play. So if Arizona State goes up 14-0, you're going to see them run the ball. You'll see them punt. I don't think this is a time where they're going to just go crazy at home here. So I like Oregon State.
All right. Well, my last bet is in this Oregon-Cal game. Do you have any other bets, or is this your last one too?
This is it. This is the last game.
Our last
game. I got some good amount of action on this one.
See, I don't. And so Oregon's going to Cal. It's a 3-point spread for Cal. Cal's the underdog. So Oregon's favored by 3 in Cal. I like Cal here. I actually have 10 on Cal to cover this. 3 points. This is one of those games last week where Oregon had Stanford, and when you lose that game, it's demoralizing. And you see it sometimes where it just ruins a team the next week. They get the hangover. They can't come back from it. Maybe TCU had some of that this week. And I think that this is just one of those losses that is so, so brutal that I'm going to go with Cal here. I don't know if Cal has good enough to pull out the win. I do think Oregon's the better team. But based on what I saw last week, it's just very rare that a team's able to recover from blowing the lead by that much. And come back and just dominate. And Oregon should be able to dominate this team. Cal's a defensive-minded team. I like them at +3 here, but I only got 10 on it.
I am on Oregon here, -3. Got $20 on it. I feel really good about this. I know exactly what you're saying. Like, they could easily have a letdown after they blew that, just a brutal blown lead against Stanford. And I'd kind of be with you if it weren't like, it's not that Oregon like blocked a couple punts or field goals and ran. There weren't pick sixes or scooping scores. There weren't fluky plays that like gave Oregon that lead. It was 24-7. Like, Oregon picked Stanford's defense apart. That was methodical. That was impressive. Justin Herbert, like I said, like, he looked so good in that first half and even after, and it took just crazy plays for them to lose. I think they're going to want to come out and play Cal and kind of prove, hey, we are as good as we looked against Stanford. Yeah, we lost that game, but we are talented. We're going to be a factor in this Pac-12. So I really think Oregon covers this. I feel pretty confident. Does that make sense to you?
No, it all makes sense.
It wasn't a fluky lead whatsoever. It was a very impressive like honestly a dominant performance against Stanford in 3.5 quarters of that game or whatever, 3/4 of that game. And it took everything to go around to lose, and that probably pisses them off, where it's like, we should have beaten Stanford. So like, if we should have beaten Stanford, we got to stomp Cal. Like, we got to make it known that that wasn't a fluke. So I really think they're you could look at it one way. It's like, yeah, they're devastated and down. They won't be able to recover. But you could look at it the other way, where it's like, they're pissed. They're pissed they didn't beat Stanford. Stanford's a top 10 team. They wanted that win. They didn't get it. Like, that might light a fire up under them. And that's what I hope here. And that's what I expect. So I got $20, Oregon -3.
See, I think it's the other way. Cal also had last week off. I think that there's just a little bit of a there's just a hangover that comes with that, where you lose a rival game there that would have put them in like a really good spot moving forward. And I don't know. I just don't like. I don't know. I see what you're saying. I just can't.
And I see what you're saying too. But even if Oregon has that hangover, like, I don't think Cal is that good of a team. I just don't think they're all that talented.
Mm-hmm.
So 3-point, like, I can see Oregon winning by a touchdown, even with a hangover.
Yeah.
And there you go. This over-under is at 58. At least that's what it was last night. It's probably shot up 5 points with the way this has been going so far for me today.
Hey, I got I lost the.
I don't know how this game is not going to hit 60 points. Oregon plays at a really fast pace. They can score quickly. They throw the ball a ton. So I don't think Oregon's defense.
58.5.
The 58.5.
Yeah.
Give it to me. I'll go $15 on over 58.5. I saw it at 58 last night, but at that point, hopefully doesn't do me dirty there. Oregon's defense looked good, but I think they're still going to give up points. I mean, when Stanford started actually throwing the ball and playing offense, they were able to move the ball. So let's see what happens with that. I really do. I expect Oregon to score a good amount, because that offense, because Stanford's defense, like we'd said all year that they were like super legit on defense. They hold USC to 3 points. They hold San Diego State to 10 points. I think UC Davis scored like 13. Like, they just don't give up points, and Oregon picked them apart. Mm-hmm. So I think Oregon is capable of putting up 40 points against Cal, maybe 50. So we'll see. But I do like Oregon not to just like roll over and die after that loss.
Yeah, no, it's a totally.
They're too good. Like, if that was a game where they, and I've said this a bunch, it wasn't fluky, but it just, if they didn't look so, and they know it, like when you're playing in a game and you're on the field, like, when a break goes your way and you get lucky. Even as a fan, like watching some Miami games last year, and we were like number 2 in the country, 10-0.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I don't think we're really number 2. Like, we've watched these games and we barely beat Georgia Tech, we barely beat UNC, got away with one against Florida State. So, I think you just have that feeling, and Oregon, I think they have the other feeling where it's like, we are this good. Like, we can compete with Stanford because of the talent we have, not because, things broke our way. So
I agree with
it. That's the week.
I hear what your point is. So let's run back through ours. Will, you're only banking $7 this week. Look at you go.
Holy crap.
Yeah, you're banking 7. You have 265 in bets out. Spanking 7. I got 250 out.
Oh, that's rough. Oh, sorry. I mean, it's a week I don't even like that much.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when you start becoming addicted, right? So here we go. I'll run through mine real quick. I got 10 on UNC plus 18, 15 on Clemson and Syracuse over 66, 10 on Syracuse plus 24, 10 on West Virginia minus 3.5, 10 on Army plus 275, 15 on NC State minus 6, 15 on UCF Pitt over 66, 20 on UCF minus 14, 20 on ECU minus 6.5, 15 on FSU Louisville under 47, 10 on Florida State minus 6.5, 15 on Duke minus 5, 10 on Penn State plus 3.5, 10 on Stanford plus 185, 15 on South Carolina plus 110, 15 on North Texas minus 7.5, 10 on Western Kentucky plus 210, 15 on BYU plus 17.5, and 10 on Cal plus 3. I'm exhausted. That's a lot of bets.
Yeah, man, I gotta take some of these out. I think honestly, like the one I really is just a gut play is that Nebraska money line. Purdue can go in there and smoke them. So I'm going to take $10 off from that. I mean, I made my point. I think Nebraska needs a win at home. So give me $10 back there. And let's see. That's the thing. I don't even like these bets, but they are leans, especially these $10 ones. It's like I want to have something on it. So, yeah, maybe we knock that Oregon bet just down to 15 instead of 20. And yeah, that'll do.
There you go. So now you're back to your 250. So run through yours here, Will.
Oh, man. Okay, I got Miami to cover the 18 points. Disagreeing with you, I got 10 on it. Got 10 on Tulane at plus 14. 10 on West Virginia, minus 3.5. Got $20 on Indiana to cover 17.5 against Rutgers. Give me that all day. I got Oklahoma State minus 18. Got $15 on it. UCF minus 14. Got 20 on that. We love that line. Again, they're mostly favorites here. Big favorites. Michigan minus 14 at Northwestern. $20 on that. Michigan Northwestern over 48 points. $20 on that. Florida plus 7.5. That I get rid of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was one
something. Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning Florida there. I'm just saying, a lot of points. If you're inclined to bet Florida, you now have some reasons to. Duke minus 5 at home against Virginia Tech. I got 15 on that. Penn State plus 3.5. Got $10 on that. Stanford plus 5.5. $15 on that. South Carolina plus 1.5. Got $10 on that. North Texas minus 7. $15 on that. BYU plus 17.5. $10. Oregon State plus 21.5. $10 there. Oregon minus 3. I like them to really bounce back. I know you feel the opposite way, so give me 15 there, and that's probably going to go over 58.5, I imagine. So $15 there. Got 240 out of my what do I have? 272.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at least I got $32 in the bank in case this week goes bad on, which I'm actually worried about. Like this week was tough, and that's why I just put a lot of $10 bets out there. These are just leans, really. I mean, again, like the line we love probably the most is UCF minus 14. I like Michigan minus 14. And
I love ECU minus 15.
I like that North Texas one
because they only have to win by a touchdown. I like it.
Yeah. All right. That does it. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Pick'emPod. Find us at Canes Insight SoundCloud, Canes Insight iTunes. We're on iTunes. College Football Pick'emPod. Just search it. Check us out on Podbean if you want. Lots of ways to listen. YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a review on iTunes or a rating. 5 stars would be nice. Yeah, we'll continue. We tweeted out a couple live bets, I think, or some bets that we saw. Like Troy last week that thing went down to minus 4.5, I think. We got it at minus 5 for Troy to cover, and they did pretty easily. Got a little dicey there at the end, but that was one that kind of that slipped our minds a bit. So if we see anything that comes up later in the week, we will tweet it out. So make sure to follow us or any live bets that we see. So yeah, anything else?
No, that's it. We'll see everybody again next week.